right, let's dive into the newscast with some breaking inputs coming in. This as top sources within the security establishment have informed Times Now that an internal inquiry has been initiated to verify allegations that pellet guns were used by security personnel during the violence that has ensued in the days gone by. Sources say the pellet gun fitted with a deflector barrel had not been approved for deployment at this particular protest. Although it is not a banned weapon and remains part of the Rapid Action Forces inventory for use only in extreme circumstances. Let's quickly go across to Priyank. Priyank, remember, has also been interacting with one of the victims in the protest. Priyank, what more can you tell us about this particular barrel and why it is the use of this is so problematic, even if it is not a banned weapon?
See, Akansha, what we have got to know that an inquiry has been initiated by the senior officials in the security establishment. This is very important because so far there have been denial which has been coming out from the security establishment. But after the Times Now report, when we had access to the victim who had described the manner in which he had suffered the injury, there is an internal inquiry which has been initiated by the central forces. To be very precise, the CRPF has also initiated an inquiry because these officers in the RAF are on deputation from the CRPF, and the RAF is certainly not banned to use these weapons. This is what sources have been indicating, Akansha. What is also important that the RAF has also been issuing these pellet guns, but what led to using of these pellet guns is certainly a matter of investigation for the security forces, because these were not extreme circumstances. In fact, in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, whenever we have seen that there have been series of violent protests, there also the uses of the pellet gun has been banned. It was not allowed, but how come in the student protest the pellet gun could have been used is a matter of investigation. The inquiry panel had gone to the doctors, to the victims, to see the kind of injuries which they have reported so far. But the usage is certainly something, Akansha, which is a big worry for the security forces. Yes.
In fact, subjecting these students to, say, such grave injuries where they are even at the risk of losing their eyesight. Because remember, Times Now has also reached out to these victims, as Priyank was highlighting. Many thanks to you, Priyank, for bringing us all of those latest details to that news story. But remember, viewers, the Delhi police action against protesters on Monday has already started this huge debate, with the moot question being, did the police and the Rapid Action Force use more force than that was actually needed to stop the protesters? Remember, they are unarmed. Many videos are now being shared on social media where Times Now cannot independently verify these videos, but some of them appear to show security personnel using what looks like pellet guns. Protesters and several opposition parties have claimed that pellet guns were used during the crackdown. Let's in fact tell you how the opposition is now milking this argument as well. They've already slammed the police action. Let's take you through the kind of reactions that have come in from the grand old party. In fact, Congress MP Manish Tiwari has gone on to openly condemn the use of police force. He's saying that the use of pellet guns is the height of brutality. Moreover, he says that you need to fix political and administrative accountability instead of resorting to such unhinged force. At the same time, Manish Tiwari also goes on to demand accountability. More importantly, he says that security forces are allegedly using these pellet guns. That's in fact the Uttar Pradesh Congress that has taken to X and has gone on to make this claim. They're saying that videos are already there showing the use of pump action guns. Why are these guns being used at student protesters? All they are asking is basic right. Now, there is a risk of permanent vision loss also, and this is something that we at Times Now can also verify, since we also made you, in fact, we've also spoken to Priyank. Priyank has been reaching out to these victims, and yes, all of these victims that we've been reaching out to have borne injuries that have been hurled at by pellet guns. At the same time, on the other hand, the counterclaim coming in from the Delhi police is that there was no use of pellet guns. They have in fact gone on to say that claims that police used pellet guns are false. They're also saying that the Delhi police does not possess any pellet guns. Pellet guns were not used in the ongoing protest. So the claim is very much that this is just misinformation. Public is requested not to share any misleading information. Then what explains these kind of heinous injuries? We do not know, but we can tell you that there are victims who have borne pellet gun injuries. In fact, one of them that Times Now reached out to has already undergone a surgery in the right eye and is only scheduled for a next surgery. That is if his eye, the one of them that has been operated, recovers. So yes, there is in fact, the truth is that protesters have been attacked by these pellet guns, even if Delhi police is denying any such action. Remember, the inquiry has already been set. We do not know what the outcome of that inquiry is going to be, but the CJP protests are very much on. Today, we are going to see nationwide protests. At the same time, the government is making overtures. As we all know, that the union ministers will be having a meeting with the CJP protesters. Prime Minister Modi, more importantly, has also released a video. The tone and tenor of that video is, in fact, extremely empathetic. With that, the Delhi police now denying the use of these pellet guns, not once, not twice, but at least on 6 separate occasions. Here's what the Delhi police has said in one of its posts. We'll also take you through what they are saying. You know, they're also going on to say that no pellet guns were used and that these claims are in fact false. However, Times Now did speak to one such victim, someone who is currently hospitalized. He maintains that the pellet guns were used on the protesters. He himself has in fact suffered multiple injuries. He's also gone on to show some of those injuries to my colleague Priyank Tripathi. Listen in to this Times Now exclusive.
There have been a series of questions which have been raised that whether the pellet guns were used or not. I'm joined with one of the victims in this case. We are not going to show his face, obviously, because his privacy is very important. But let me show you the kind of injuries which have been there. These are the small wounds which has happened because of the pellets which have been used, and the kind of scary thing which has been there is very alarming. Times Now is the only channel which has managed to, but we are certainly respecting the privacy of the victim in this case. He's a professional, he's a young professional who had gone there to be in support of the student. Let me once again show you. There have been hand injuries also. And,
no, there's no hand injury.
But the kind of pellet wounds, if you allow me, have been there, is under question, where the authorities have been asking that is this a pellet gun or not. But when you reached here, I'm not going to show your face. When you reached, what was the kind of shape of? Okay, fair enough. So certainly we are respecting his privacy, but on the usual we have shown that what is the kind of injury which has been there.
All right, Priyank is joining me on the broadcast as well. Priyank, you had that conversation. There's also a sense of fear which is now going to be gripping these students. Remember, 3 of our own reporters have also been attacked. We speak on a day when more protests are set to grip the national capital. Will the announcement that there's going to be an inquiry have any kind of an impact on Delhi police now?
See, Akansha, the Delhi police has been tight-lipped. In fact, 3 days back, they had issued a statement on their social media platform X that no pellet gun has been used. What is very alarming that this was also fact-checked by the Press Information Bureau, and the information was also circulated from their part. But time and again, whatever information which we're getting, we have to go on the ground and cross-verify the claim which has been done by the law enforcing agency and the media publicity department. But when we went to the ground, it was quite visible, Akansha, that these were pellets. These were small, pellets which came out from the barrel of that funnel-shaped gun which has been used in the past years as well. I have been covering multiple protests as well as the kind of action which has been there from the security forces side, and it was quite visible, that the barrel was like a triangular kind of shape, which is a spreader. Whenever the pellets are fired, it spreads into different directions so that the protesters can be moved away from that particular location. The victim was certainly scared because he had also met two of the union ministers. He was assured that proper action will be taken in this particular case. But once the Times now broke this story on the TV medium yesterday itself at 6 p.m., the authorities have woken up and now officially they have confirmed it through source base that they have initiated an inquiry in this particular case. So the fact of the matter is that why to run away from responsibility? If you have some law and order issue, if you have to use force, if you have to use this kind of guns to remove those hooligans who have gone out on the street, why to shy away from taking responsibility, Akansha? Because
Absolutely.
every gun is being accounted in the record of the forces. If that bullet was fired, obviously by evening, whenever the forces could have gone back to their respective bases, the data could have been there. But denying it for 3 days and then coming out and accepting it after the Times Now, story broke out at 6 p.m. Is certainly not the strategy which is going to work anymore for the people.
It's deeply, deeply tragic and unfortunate that because of certain fringe elements in these protests, it's the innocent, unarmed student protesters also who are paying the cost, that too with such grievous injuries. Many thanks to you, Priyank, for bringing us all of those details.